Good evening, everyone. It's another Saturday. That means we were at the protest today. And again, we started off at the family-friendly part of the protest. These Palestine protests have been having an alternative route for people that don't want to be going over lots of steps, for people with children, people with families. Very, very inclusive. There'll be footage of it on the channel soon, so subscribe and you'll see it. And they were doing sign language for people that need sign language, translating at the beginning when we were being advised about what your rights are as a protester, what to say or what not to say if the police approach you. Hello, Middle East Beast. Good to have you watching. And it just shows you the broad spectrum of types of people that want to show up to a protest. And very often the people who are against whatever issue will just tar everyone with the same brush and say, oh, look at that lot, look at the loony left, if they're seen as left-wing, or look at those Islamists, look at them. But really, this is a huge movement now, broad spectrum of people, and I think it's becoming rapidly very mainstream in a way that Palestine solidarity never was before. And even walking back from the protest at the end of the day, if you're dressed in your Palestinian scarves, etc., people are coming up to you and saying, oh, how was the protest? How was it? There's really a sense of the tide turning, and despite all the nonsense about certain slogans being banned or being against certain people, or a problem with flying the flag, we've seen more and more. We've seen more flags, we've heard more chants. So I want to ask you in the comments, whether you're watching later or watching live now, what is your first experience of a protest? Or are you a newcomer? I had someone with me today, first time at a protest. And I think a lot of people have been on their first ever protest, probably in the last few months, just over 100 days. And it struck me today that when we first turned out in October, it was still hot, still felt like summer. And now we've been through that cold winter and we're coming out the other side. We've had over 100 days protesting against this onslaught. Lambi Alfie is saying, vegan protest, trying to tell me I can't eat pork. Okay, so you attended the protest, not as a protester, but as a passerby, and they were telling you not to eat pork. I haven't seen many vegan activists for a while, but I'm always willing to listen. I'm not vegan myself. I don't think I ever will be. Coffee Addict, DJ Yo is here, and I believe you were at the protest today as well. Kim, I'm sorry I didn't say hi to you. Sarah saw you apparently. I would have loved to have had a chat, but that's great to see you there. And you're someone who has always stood with Palestine. I've seen you wearing your keffiyeh, whether you're on a march or not. Respect to you for that. Everyone give DJ Yo, a Coffee Addict, a follow. He's worth a look. He's on TV now and then as well. And I'm a fellow coffee addict. I was drinking coffee from Colombia earlier on. Middle East Beast is saying, I was there. The vegans barked at us with their McPlants. The vegans, I think, come from from a place of compassion. They believe that that they are preventing suffering, and that's a good thing. That's a good intention. Whether you feel that's right for you in your own life, and whether you follow it, that is very much up to you. Man, I do like a coffee, Lambi Alfie is saying. Yeah, and even the process of making a coffee. I'm sure not all coffees are produced in a morally acceptable way. We do try and find what do they call it? Fair trade coffee. Always taste that little bit sweeter on the conscience. Middle East Beast is saying, score prediction for Arsenal versus Liverpool. Well, the last time I went to an Arsenal match, the only time I went to an Arsenal match, I think Dennis Bergkamp was still playing. And that probably dates it for you. I saw Arsenal play Wimbledon in 1990 something. So I've got no idea. I couldn't even. All I know is Everton are in the drop zone, unfortunately, and they're minus 10 points. It looks like it might cost them their place in the Premier League. Everton are second only to Arsenal for longest time spent in the top flight, be it Premier League or the old Division 1, as my dad insisted on calling it. Alfie is off to the gym. I will catch you later. Alfie, are you going to the gym at this time of night, or are you in another country? I used to do the gym late night, but I can't now. I'm too tired. Sarah Dardasha is saying from somewhere over there, what an amazing gathering today. So many different backgrounds and religions all together marching peacefully. Thank you, Sarah. And Rob Hardy is giving me a heart. One of my proudest moments was when Rob Hardy, 1985, and I took on the elite of the day and did a complete piss take of George W. Bush and Tony Blair, Sir Tony Blair to you, in a great stage production that went down in history. This was on the brink of the Iraq War, and we were, what do they call it? Parodying them. Good times. So Rob, you were with me in my early days of political activism, around about the time when we boycotted the canteen. I always wanted to rebel against something. There you go, Sixth Form Review, available on VHS if you can find it. And if ahead of our time, yeah, absolutely, Rob. We'll have to get the show on the road again. Start working on your impressions. And I am enjoying one of my 5 a day. Forgive me. I should really be having a watermelon. This is ananas. Ananas, the word for pineapple in many languages. But we did see a lot of the watermelon image today, which has been used as a substitute for the Palestine flag, given that it's red, white, black and green. And I think that goes back further than I realised. That's not a recent addition. Do you know the history of the watermelon being the Palestine flag?
Yeah, at some point they banned using the flag, so they used the watermelon to represent it as you can see the colours there.
But at what point did they ban it?
Oh, when exactly? No, that I can't remember.
I thought it was a new thing, like that.
No, it was not.
But it's been it's been around for a long time. So yeah, protests often use symbolism, symbols, whether it's the Black Power salute standing on the Olympic podium. Forgive me, I can't name the 2 gentlemen that went down in history when they won gold and bronze in the athletics, and the 3rd man on the podium that day, the white athlete, I think he was Australian, also kept in touch with them and was in solidarity with their anti-racism throughout their life. And we don't realise it. We look back on history and think, oh my God, black people were treated like that. Had to sit at the back of the bus. Racial segregation. Different schools for different races. And it seems so weird to us that we sort of can't imagine it. But at the time, it would have been normal. And the goldfish doesn't realise that he's in a bowl or that he's in water. What's going on at the moment? a genocide on your TV, I think in time to come, people will look back and think, how did we not realize what was happening? But we are slowly waking up. And I think a lot of people will regret that or will deny that they were on the fence. No one would admit now to being on the fence when it came to apartheid in South Africa, but certainly there are people now who I think will want to edit the history a little bit. I do feel like that. So let me know, what's your first experience of taking it to the streets? I mean, I'm talking to Rob there about things that went on in sixth form, little fun acts of rebellion, but I didn't actually take to the streets and protest until about a year later, when George W. Bush, the president whom I'd impersonated and made fun of on stage, showed up to the UK, and we came out and protested against him. And I remember, was it an Egyptian gentleman who tried to throw his shoe at Bush when he was giving a speech one time, and then carrying a shoe became sort of a symbol of rebelling and hating George Bush. And it's strange, as we've gone throughout different presidents, and it's an election year coming up, or this year, 2024, there will be an election. Will Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe Biden, defend his title? Will he continue for another 4 years, or will it be Orange Man bad? Is he coming back? There's a Kennedy from the Democrat Party trying to oust his own fellow Democrat. Robert Kennedy Jr. is trying to challenge Joe Biden. You've got Kamala Harris, who seems to be destined to be the first female president if anything happens to Joe Biden, and we hope it won't. And I've always paid close attention to the American election. It's almost more important than the UK election, even though I live in the UK, because the American election, and America is the world's only superpower, it feels like it's more important. And the first election I can really remember paying close attention to was when George W. got elected. First protest was when he came to the UK. First time I impersonated anyone on stage, it was George Bush. And the first election I can remember really caring about was when George Bush stole the election from Al Gore. And I remember being very disappointed that Al Gore had lost. And I think Al Gore, looking back, seeing what George Bush did, seeing all the destruction in Iraq and Afghanistan, I can only presume that Al Gore might have been not as bad as George Bush turned out to be. And then John Kerry tried to oust George Bush, election night 2004. And again, I was very excited. I'd seen George Bush steal an election once, and I was desperate to see him defeated. I was hoping he wouldn't get a second term, just like his father didn't get a second term. Is that right? George Bush Sr., was he a one-term president? Was he ousted by Bill Clinton? And George W. Bush clung on to power. So and you can only be a president for 2 terms in the United States. I think that's possibly a good idea, because you wind up with president over here in UK. We end up with prime ministers going on and on and on and on. Maggie Thatcher being one, Tony Blair being another. But the same prime minister for over a decade, surely that has to be some kind of a dictatorship, even if it is so-called. in a democracy. So George W. Bush completed his second term with vast destruction behind him, war in Iraq, war in Afghanistan. For what? To oust the Taliban, who are back in power now. Well done, George Bush. War in Iraq to finish the job that his father started, a job that shouldn't have been finished anyway, after propping up one dictator against another, after giving the weapons to Saddam Hussein so he could go and attack Iraq, and then being surprised when he attacked Kuwait, and then using it as an excuse to invade in 2003, and then implicating him somehow with 9/11. Complete nonsense, complete nonsense. But George Bush finished, and there was a new horizon, there was a new hope, and that came in the form of Barack Hussein Obama, this newcomer, this outsider, this first black president, finally. And I was delighted in 2008 when he beat John McCain, the late John McCain, who is dead now. And I was very happy about that, and very disappointed again at the end of Barack Obama's 2 terms, another 2-term president. By the time he had got halfway, and who was the guy that ran against him? Mitt Romney. Was it Mitt Romney? Would have been the 2012 election. It's so forgettable that it doesn't really resonate in my mind. But at the end of Barack Obama's 2 terms, good evening, Bina. We missed you at the protest today. Were you there? Bina is a regular attender at these protests. So Barack Obama turned out to be more of the same, more of the neocon agenda of invading other countries, even though he's from the other party. Bina, can you not hear me? Okay, I hope other people can hear me. Oh, it's only Bina. Barack Obama turned out to be more of the same, but he had two terms, and then we were faced with a strange scenario, and this outsider again, Donald J. Trump. I won't do the impression today. I don't know, and it needs some practice. But here comes this so-called outsider who wants to come and drain the swamp. He's from the Republican side. I mean, I've got no time for the Republican Party in America, but look what the Democrat Party have done. So when it was Bernie Sanders up against Hillary Clinton for the nomination, then I had hope that Bernie or bust, feel the burn. This elderly gentleman of a Jewish background who stands with the Palestinians, stands for justice, would be non-interventionist, want to pull out of these wars. There was real hope. But up against him in the Democrat Party was a war hawk in the form of Hillary Clinton. And we were on the verge of having a list of presidents of the United States of America that read Bush Sr., Clinton, Bush Jr., Obama, then Clinton. I mean, we nearly had Hillary Clinton instead of Barack Obama. She tried to she ran against Barack Obama as a candidate, and she defeated Bernie Sanders as a candidate, who would have been the only guy who could have prevented Donald Trump, because a lot of the voters, the disaffected, poor working class voters that voted for Trump, they would have equally voted for Bernie Sanders. So it ended up being Hillary Clinton up against Donald Trump. For the first time, I didn't really care who won the election. You know, when your team is playing, you want your team to win. And I've always been on the left. I've always gone with the Democrats over the Republicans, often as a lesser of two evils. For the first time, it felt like the lesser of two evils wasn't really that much less. And as I watched the election unfold and the upset came, and Donald Trump, surprisingly, I don't think many people predicted it, Donald Trump won the election. And the rest is history. But in fairness, he didn't start any new wars abroad. He did some terrible things in Syria. He killed General Soleimani, the Iranian war hero, to some. He didn't start any new wars, and he lost the election to Joe Biden. Hooray! Hooray! A Democrat back in power. A Democratic president. And Joe Biden has watched, has stood by while a genocide has unfolded. Blood on his hands. Blood on his hands. And it's interesting to me that, and I don't know if I'm imagining it, often when we have a Democrat in power in the US, we have a Tory Conservative government in the UK. So into my memory, George W., a Republican on the right, his tenure coincided with Tony Blair. Tony Blair reigned for a long time as like a king. Bush and Blair. Why do these left-wingers in the UK find common grounds with right-wingers in America? Is it just because there's a special relationship and it doesn't matter what side you're on? Why would a left-wing Prime Minister distance himself from our greatest ally in the US? So you had Bush and Blair. At the moment, we've got a Tory government. We've had a Tory government for a long time. We had Boris. We've had David Cameron, Boris Johnson, then a couple of women were Prime Minister for a while, Theresa May, and the other one, Liz Truss. And now we've got Rishi Sunak, shame on you. And there's a Democrat in the White House. Is there any coincidence there? Am I imagining it? Is that to balance out the power in the world? You've got to have a left-wing candidate in America and a right-wing candidate over here. There's Sarah joining us from. Join us on the screen if you want, Sarah. Wherever you are in the world, give us your take on the protest today. And Rishi Sunak, shame on you. That was one of the chants. And of course, whoever is in charge of America. I mean, would it be any different? Me, I'm in the kitchen. Yeah, you can go live from the kitchen if you want. I hope you're making me a cup of tea. Yeah, does it make a difference? Does it make a difference who is in power? Does it make a difference who you vote for, whether you vote or not? A lot of people in the UK are thinking of withholding their vote because their local MP or whichever party they would usually vote for hasn't spoken up. And because so many haven't said anything, who do you vote for? Who do you vote for? I saw a female black activist recently in the UK was being interviewed and asked about who she would vote for, and she felt she could not vote for Labour, even though she's probably been Labour all her life, like myself. She would not vote Labour, and they said, "Well, what are you going to vote Conservative then?" He said, "No, I'm not. I'm not going to vote Conservative, but I won't vote Labour. I can't vote Labour because Keir Starmer has done nothing. He has sat by and watched this unfold. And by not voting for Labour, you're essentially allowing the Tories to win. And they questioned her on that, and she said, look, my people have suffered a lot. If we have to suffer a Tory government, so be it. If that's the price of not voting Labour, we'll pay the price. And that's what it's about sometimes. The price you're willing to pay. Look at the price the people in Palestine are paying. We can suffer with them. We're suffering a lot less. But we can suffer. And in life, the beauty of life is you can choose how you suffer. You're going to suffer. All life is suffering. Buddha said it. But the beauty is we get to choose how we can suffer. A friend I met today, who I hope doesn't mind me advertising his account on here. He's known as Man versus Fear. And in his bio, he says, if you choose to do what's easy, life will be hard. But if you choose to do what's hard, life will be easy. That's so true. Sometimes we just have to choose how we're going to suffer. If you go to the gym and work out, it will be hard work. It might be painful. You might have to feel the burn, but you will then enjoy the benefit of being fit and healthy and the mental health that comes with working out. If you choose to stay at home and do nothing and eat chocolate all the time, then you will suffer the consequences of bad health. That's just how we're going to suffer either way, but you get to choose how you suffer. And I always like to have a healthy diet, fruit, pineapple. Sarah's saying I don't like it when people say votes and protests don't make a difference. Yeah. A lot of people like to tell you that it doesn't matter, it's not going to do anything. And of course, those people are not doing anything. Are they saying that to make themselves feel better about their inactivity, about the fact that they didn't do anything? Do they want that to be true? Look, the movement, as I said, coming back from it today and people asking me how did it go, you sense that it's spreading. The word is spreading like wildfire. And look at the companies that have suffered. Look at the desperation from McDonald's giving out free food, trying to claw back customers because of the revenue that they've lost throughout all of this, because of what they've done. And the other companies are losing out. The truth is, people don't care until it hurts them in the pocket. That's the reality. That's where activism makes a difference, is when you hit these powerful people financially, because they don't have the compassion to react when they see people suffering. But when they start losing money, then they change their ways. And even if it makes no difference, shouldn't we express our solidarity with people who are suffering? Attending a funeral will not bring someone back from the dead, but it's the right thing to do. It will honour them, and it's the right thing to do, is it not? Every culture does it. And ask the people themselves. If you ask any Palestinian, should we go out and protest? Does it make a difference? Should I bother? Of course they would tell you yes. They would say, thank you for turning out for us. We appreciate it. 100%. That's what I hear every time. I've never heard a Palestinian saying, "Oh, don't bother, don't waste your time." They will never say that. So don't think that your voice is not heard. We have to make the effort. And it was worth attending today. Every protest I attend, you meet different people. And for once, I managed to meet up with someone that told me, I'll see you at the protest. Very often, you're more likely to run into your long-lost friend from primary school than someone that you've actually arranged to meet, because it's so busy and so packed. And there's no detractors. I haven't seen any counter protesters. That's not been happening. I don't know if there will be other demonstrations at other times and places. I remember back in November when it was Remembrance Day and people didn't want to have a Palestine protest for a ceasefire on the day that we remembered the biggest, most important ceasefire in the world. But no, there's been no detractors that I've seen. So turn out, show up, attend a local one when there's nothing big going on in central London. There are always local protests. If you've seen on the channel, we attended one in Twickenham recently against the arms dealers gathering in Twickenham. Horrible stuff. And in the comments, if you're against what we say or what we're doing, you're welcome. You're welcome to have your freedom of speech and air your point of view. Very welcome. I never like to silence people or censor people. The next big protest outside of the Palestine issue, although I think key to all issues, the 21st of February. 21st of February, coming up outside the Royal Courts of Justice. It is Day X, the final decision in the case of Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange, the man behind bars for speaking the truth, for telling the truth to you, for exposing the war crimes, including the war crimes in Iraq and Afghanistan that we've just mentioned. The man that said if war can be started by lies, maybe truth can prevent the wars. The man that explained to us that the point is not to win the war, but to make the war ongoing, because these people, the weapons dealers that I met going into Twickenham Stadium, profit from it. They profit from it. And that's why there must always be a constant war or threat of war. That's why they're threatening you with being called up with conscription to go and fight in a war that you have no business, no intention of fighting. That's why that's on the horizon, because they want perpetual war. And Julian Assange spoke out against it on the 21st of Feb. I pray that he will be free. We will find out. So join that protest if you can, outside the court, 21st of February, coming up. Book the day off if you can. And thank you for watching. Free Palestine.